and I build it again, brush, view, geometry, and close. You see how it squishes the texture? So the problem is I don't know if you noticed, but when you're cutting and adding things, sometimes the texture is off. So what you can do is if you hit the F5, which is a shortcut, you have a default. I can change the mapping, the way that it's assigned to planar. And if I hit apply, all of a sudden it's going to redo the way that it's, hello. Oh, I got to select the surface. So you select the surface of the brush so it's blue, hit apply, and now if you look, you'll see how it standardized the tiling and it made it even. So this is pretty handy as a way, and you can also rotate and scale the textures. So you can move a texture around once you get it. And if you have a bunch of walls, you select all the walls at the same time, apply planar or box, and it'll make all of them the same scale. So the big problem is some of your boxes are bigger and smaller because they all default bigger and smaller sizes. So that'll get that set up. So let me add some interactivity to this, even though this is obviously nowhere near an exciting level at all. We're going to select the door. And the first thing I need to do is I need to add what's called a trigger. The way we're going to add a trigger is right-click, add actor, and add trigger. And we looked at this a little bit with Cameron's. And I'm going to go in and set up the trigger. And what you want to do usually if you do a door is you want to make it basically as, you don't need to make it too big, and you want to make sure that it's high enough that you walk into it. And you can see there's the collision boundary. So anytime that I walk into that space, it's going to fire. Now in order to get this to work, you have to go into what's called Kismet, which is visual programming. I'll go into Kismet, and I'm going to right-click, and I'm going to basically create what's called a new event using the trigger, and I'm going to do it whenever it's touched. Cameron did used, which is when you hit the E key, so you have different options for stuff. I'm just going to do when touched, and what I'll do is I'll create a script right here that I'll say trigger fired, and turn this on. And now when I go to play this, let me just turn off global illumination real quick. Okay, so when I walk forward, I don't know if you can see in the lower left, you see how it says trigger fired? So at any rate, that's a way that's like the hack as far as getting displays. So what I can do is now I know it's fired, so now I want to create some actual movement that takes place. So what I would do is with the door selected, I can right click and I can add what's called a matinee. And this is basically the term comes from the cinematics. And what I want to do is when I trigger the door, I want the animation to play. So I'll open up the animation, create a new empty group, and I'll just call this door. And then I'll add what's called a movement track to that. Let me make sure I have the door selected. Crap. Oh, okay. The reason why it's not doing it is I have to convert it to what's called a mover, because right now it's static. So if you want something to move, you have to convert it over to a mover. And because I have the matinee open. Okay, just let me close this out. Take this, right click, convert to mover. And we'll just continue, and now it's purple, so now it means I can animate it. So we'll go back to Kismet, go back to here. I'm just going to get rid of this track real quick. Create an empty group, call door. Create a movement track. And now I add a key just by clicking this icon right here, and move the scrubber to 2 seconds. And at 2 seconds, I'm going to move the door up and add a second key. And now you can see I have an animation between those 2 points. And when I go to scrub this, the door goes up and down. Now, right now, this animation is going to play a total of 5 seconds. I'm just going to set it to 2. So now it'll play from here to here. Close this out. And at this point, if I go to play this, and I walk over, and I go over to the door, when it fires, the door goes up. Now the problem is if I back up, the door doesn't do anything. So now I need to add the down part, which is basically when it's untouched, it plays the animation backwards. So when it's touched, it's up. When it's untouched, it comes down. The other thing I want to be aware of is right now the max trigger count, which is how often it fires, is set to 1. So once I open the door once, nothing's going to happen. So you want to set that to 0. So now if I go to play, now at this point, I can go over to the door, get the door open. I can stand here as long as I want, and then when I back up, the door goes back down. Now, when I create a mover, I can accidentally walk through this, which is one thing, Jason, if you decide you want to do your whole scene this way, what you need to do is you need to select the door object and turn on its collision so that it blocks everything, and now you can't walk through it. When you make something a mover, it turns it off. So the only other thing I'll show you, and then we're all done, is I just want to show you how to add sound. I know I've gone over, and I apologize about that. Is you can do a sound action, which all it is it just plays a sound. Pretty simple. And I can do one when it's touched, and I'll go find the sound. So let's open up the content browser, and we can come in, and they're called sound cues. And I'm going to look for the sound cue that's called elevator. And we'll do an elevator start. And I'll load up that sound. And let me make sure I got my sound on. Yep. So now if I do play from here, I don't know if you could hear that. It was pretty faint. But at any rate, now the animation plays the sound, and you can get to move up and down. So that's just the basic. Obviously, I can do a lot more stuff. I'm sorry I went over a little bit. But I just wanted to